a small token, but we'd like all our moms to stand. Could you please, real quick, we're going to give you, no, you, sit there, please. All our moms, go ahead and stand up. We know who you are. We'd like to give you some flowers. Matter of fact, guys, I think we got plenty. Give them a big old bunch of them. You have a couple or three. Man, I'm telling you, we're just going to go all out today. Get crazy. Make sure we save enough for our ladies back in the back. Just, let's all give our lady mom a hand. We're going to continue to make our way back there. And just bear with us. This is like an old, long-standing tradition of coming up with, we hope that you guys are honored by this. It's not, I know it's not much, but it just shows us guys, we kind of have a little bit of desire to show a little gratitude. It's not the name brand vacuum cleaner you always wanted, but I love that scene. I was expecting like he's going to do something and he goes on to the whole name brand vacuum cleaner thing. I was like, that rocks. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. Before we go any further, though, I just want to share with you. Come up here, please. Carol, would you come up here, Tommy? Where's Tommy? Tommy. Carol, would you come up here? This is Carol's last day leading with us, and she is going to be going on to some stuff. And she's going to stay in the church. Mommy's staying in the church. Don't get scared all of a sudden. But she's going to be doing some more of her solo stuff and her album. Matter of fact, you're recording next week. So, amen. We're looking forward to that. Song's going to be on the album that you wrote, right, Tommy? Yeah. And so and plus, I don't know if you've, trainerspace.com is getting ready to launch the beta, right? In 7 days, and he's going to be launching this brand new business. And so this is her last Sunday with us, and we wanted to give you this as just a little token of our appreciation. I did not know who Carol and Tommy Poole were until a few months before they were married 2 years ago. I guess it'll be 2 years in December, right? 2.5 years, but it'll be 3 years in December. Yeah, 3 years in December. And I get this phone call, and she goes, "Hey, my name's Carol. My fiance and I would like to, get marriage counseling and premarital counseling." And so we did the whole premarital counseling. But we've had a relationship with them, and it's been exciting, and we're just thankful. And I just want to say thank you. Carol came in and helped us during probably the most difficult time our church has ever had. I've never had a staff person die. And I'm going to tell you something, losing Dennis was hard. And Carol stepped in there and during tough times, and it's difficult working with me anyway, but working in that environment as well. And I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And we're really appreciative, and thank you very much, okay? Now, you guys can stand up. If you want to go hug somebody, you're more than welcome to. Go to somebody and say, "Hey, we do thank you so much for our mothers, God. This is a great opportunity, God. It just confuses my mind to think how, God, you have chosen us to be co-creators with you, and the special place that a woman has in your creation, God, is just phenomenal. And God, with everything that that goes around in our culture and the craziness of the stuff that we're trying to impose upon our people and stuff, God, we can't get away from the fact that just creation is just the way you intended it. And God, I thank you so much for moms. And I thank you for every time they kiss a boo-boo to giving hard counsel and just saying, son or daughter, you just need to grow up. And God, I just thank you for that. And I love you, and I know we love you, God, and we welcome you in this service, and just speak to our hearts and change our lives. And we ask in your name. Amen. Have a seat when you already are. This morning I wanted to share with you just a real quick, it's not a quick message, just a little more of a detailed message. But I wanted to do this on Mother's Day because a lot of you moms are still married or will be married, and some of you young ladies will be married, and you have hopefully a husband or in your life, and I wanted to give you a gift today because I just wanted to. If I were a woman and I were married, I would take this message and I would just say, listen, this is the way that I expect to be treated. And if a husband did not do this, I would crank a knot in that guy. And the reason I say that you can do that and you can get away with it is because I've been married for 23 years, and I'm going to tell you something. My wife will not expect anything less than what I'm sharing with you this morning. And she'll get up here and tell you. She toes the line. And this is one of the things that I really believe that it's not just her. I believe it's God. I believe that He teaches us husbands to respond in this way. I believe that it's our duty to be this way. Matter of fact, in 1 Corinthians 7:3. But one of the things I want to share with you, this is not just I like to bring real world a lot of times too, today's world into it. There was a book that came out a long time ago, and this is one of a recommended reading kind of for people who are in leadership or want to be in leadership. It was called Strategies for Taking Charge, and it's a real famous book by Bennis and Nanis, and they wrote this book, and it said this. They did a research of all these different CEOs. And this is actually not a marriage book, but they did this section that there's this one area that just really touches on it. And they did a study of the 90 top CEOs in the United States, and they wanted to find out what were the common denominators. And did you know that these guys were all in entertainment and politics and sports and television, and they found that there was absolutely nothing in common in terms of background, abilities, or education. But what they did find out of these 90, and this was the thing that was really, really interesting, is these CEOs were still married to their first wife. And they also claimed to be happily married. And they were enthusiastic about the institution of marriage. And they concluded that the stability of that relationship of being a husband led to one of the big factors in the success of their lives. And so one of the things that I just want to share this morning is a Mother's Day message, and you can say it's not your typical, but hopefully it'll help you moms, and especially as wives as well. And I think these are things that you can learn to deal with all relationships. But the first thing is I want you to look at 1 Corinthians 7:3. It says this: a man should fulfill his duty as a husband, and a woman should fulfill her duty as a wife, and each should satisfy the other's needs. That's a Good News translation. And one of the things is God expects, and God has a purpose for the husband to be the single person that supplies the needs, the basic needs for the woman. I mean, this is one of the things that I think that we get confused on. We think that we can somehow or another farm out the needs of our wife to somebody else, like our girlfriends or something. But I used to. It was a television show that came on, and I was kind of thumbing through the channels one night, and I just caught the commercial. That was not a commercial; it was a spoof commercial. Of this TV show. I don't remember what the TV show was, but it was a spoof commercial, and it was called The Cuddler. That's why it caught my attention. And it was this guy, and he rented out this other guy, and this guy was a cuddler. So if he's watching sports, he would just call the cuddler. He would come in and cuddle with his wife while he was watching sports. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But I wish I could have recorded that because it was so ridiculous. But that's what I think a lot of people think. And Freud said this: despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, I have not yet been able to answer the great question: what does a woman want? And I really believe that would be, if you were to ask me just right off the, but I really believe that there's a guy that we're going to be talking about who, through counseling and marriage counseling, has come up with some basic needs. And I really believe, if I were to change this message to another title, you know what I would call it is, how to make sure my wife never, ever, ever, ever wants another man in her life. That would be what I would call this thing. How to make sure that my wife never wants anyone else in her life. What I call this, and this is the only way I can deal with it practically, is I call this making myself irreplaceable. I mean, if some guy came into her life and tried to woo her or whatever, she just said, listen, Jack, I've got this one trained. He's doing everything in my life. He's making a difference in my life. He's doing the things that I need. Just keep on walking, But the thing is 1 Peter says this, and this is something I think husbands need to take into account. 1 Peter 3:7 says, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner, as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Nothing. He gives us really 3 things in that text that I believe are really important. He says, be considerate, treat them with respect, and live with them. And what he's trying to say, I really believe he's given us 3 things that he says, the husband says, if you will do these 3 things, so Peter's saying, if the husband will do these 3 things, your prayers will be effective. I can tell you firsthand experience, if I'm not doing these things, I'm not respecting my wife and being considerate to my wife, and you say, well, are there times? All the time. I have to live up to this all the time. And just as soon as I take my eyes off of it for a second, I'm being disrespectful, I'm not being considerate, and I just want to find a place like my little building out back or something to hide in. But the Bible says, and I can't pray. I just can't. I can tell you right now, if I'm out on the outs of charity, I can't waste my time praying because God's just going to say to me, get it right. Get on in there. One night I left the bed, went to lay on the couch. We had an argument. And I'm just sitting there. I'm laying on the couch, and the Holy Spirit just got on me. It's like, you're going to have to get this right eventually. Why waste a night of sleep on this couch? Why not go ahead and go do it now when it's easier? And then you can get on back to bed. And I'm like, that makes good sense. So I got up off the couch. I went and made it right and got a great night's sleep. But Peter tells us to understand our wives. And I think this is, to be considerate. Next week, you guys don't feel left out because next week Charity is going to share the 5 basic needs of guys. She's going to be talking to the ladies, so it's going to be a gift to you as well. But notice it says be considerate. And what does it mean to be considerate? What is he talking about there? And I really believe that it's being thoughtful of the needs and the feelings of another person. It's being thoughtful of the needs. It's being thoughtful of the feelings of another person. And I believe this is not just something you go, oh, okay, I'm going to be considerate. I believe this is a lifelong process. I believe it takes learning. I really believe that women are extremely complex, and I'm not going to be the first one to go up here and say, hey, I've got this all figured out, because I don't. But I do understand that there's some simple things that is just understanding to be considerate. And number two, live with your wife. And you say, well, I do. I think this means more than sharing a bed and meals. This really is about spending time with her. It's a basic set I'm going to share this a little bit, but I want you to go ahead and do this right now. No, I'll do it later. But I want you to learn, we're going to talk about this later, but I want you to learn that if you are and your wife, or it's like what Joanne Woodward said about her and Paul Newman. It's easy to divorce your spouse. It's hard to divorce your best friend. You see, what I'm talking about here is not being husband and wife necessarily, which that is true. I'm talking about getting in a relationship where you do what it takes as a husband to become your wife's best friend. And you do things together, and you are companions together. And we like to have a tendency to compartmentalize our lives. We got work over here, we got hobbies here, we got being married here, which is a drag, and we got, whatever over here. But what I'm trying to say is best you can get rid of the compartments and make it all one. My wife and I, we talk about my job all the time. She is a part of the decisions that are made, and she is a part of it. I share things with her. And I let her decide. I'm like, hey, there's a lot of times there's things that come into this job that are really hard. And so I just say, hey, listen, do you really want to hear this? Yes, I want to, or no, I don't want to hear about that. She makes the choice on that. But the thing is we play together. We go out on the boat, we hang together, we go to the baseball games together. We try as best we can not to compartmentalize our lives. I'll tell you how much that is true. If something starts getting into our lives, like Charity, some of you guys know she taught ballet for years. And there was a point where ballet was fun and it was a part of all of our, but she said, this is taking time away from my family, and I've got this life out here, and you guys are over here. And she said, I'm done. We need the money. I know we can use the money because she was making a little money doing it. But listen, I'm getting rid of it because we need family time again. So she just got it. And I've had to make decisions like that as well. I had another job that was 40 miles away, but I had to cut it because it was taken away from our family. And, trusting God. You just have to trust God. And I think that we live with each other. That means that we share things and we do things. Number three, respect. Studies have shown that the number one determining factor in a wife's self-esteem is how she feels about herself in response to her husband, how her husband feels about her. I'm going to tell you something, guys. You hold such a powerful position in the life of your wife, and you need to respect that, and you need to honor that, and you need to cherish that. Have you ever heard of the term appreciation and depreciation? You know what I'm saying? Appreciation is when it raises in value. Depreciation means to lower in value. Every time you appreciate your wife and you make her more valuable to you as a person, she grows in value. My wife is much more valuable to me than she was 10 years ago. And I spend much of my time trying to be strategic in showing her how much she values, how much I value her, how much I appreciate her, how much I love her. I love it when she takes off for about a week or two, which she's done, and she goes home and sees family for a week or so. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think I can do 2 weeks anymore. She did 2 weeks once. Before he had all these kids. But when she goes for a week now, I'm just like, when she comes home, it's like we all fall at her feet and practically worship her. Now, this message that I'm going to share with you, the rest of this message, you can find what I'm going to be sharing with you in a book called His Needs, Her Needs by a guy named Dr. Willard Harley. He is also, here's another book if you want, and I think this one has changed. It went out of print as this book, but it came back in another book. But this one's called Give and Take. And I'm going to tell you something. These are two classical books. Dr. Willard Harley is a Christian psychologist up in Minnesota, and he did research on 3,000, I think it was either 1,500 couples and 3,000 people or something like that. But he did this research and came up with this book and said it's basically called How to Affair-Proof Your Marriage. And I really honestly believe God gave me this book at the right time in my marriage. We've been married about 7 years, and God gave me this book through a different pastor relationship with a friend of mine. And we grabbed hold of this book, and it was like, wow, I should have had a VA. And I thought for years that my wife wanted what I wanted. You know, she wanted everything I was doing for her. I thought that, because that's what I would want. And she's sitting there not feeling it. And because it's not what she wanted. And so I found out through this book that my wife needs a whole, not saying that men don't need the needs that women need, and not saying that women don't have some needs that men need. But for the most part, in this research, Dr. Harley gave, so he put some values out there that said, listen, these are some real genuine needs that women say in counseling that they need. As a matter of fact, he uses an illustration in the book called the love bank. And he says that needs that are being met are deposits. Your needs being met are withdrawals. Who said withdrawals? You said it? All right. You need a sticker? Get a free winner on a sticker here. Let's do that. No sticker. I pay attention to you. All right. Harley says that when I meet your needs, I'm depositing, and when you're meeting my needs, I'm withdrawing. And this is the thing is, how many of you keep your bank account like negative all the time? Don't raise your hand. It's not good, is it? It's a bad thing. But a lot of us keep our relationship like that all the time. We're just taking. And that book, Giving and Taking, talks about how the need for giving and taking. Your giver has to give and your taker has to take. And if you're not balanced. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about, but the first thing that I believe a woman cannot live without, and they don't have to be 100% on your rate, but I'm going to talk about it in this order, is affection. Now I'm going to tell you something, guys. This is not giving her a pat on the bottom. Okay? When I say the word affection, you men, you've got to get anything and everything sexual out of your brain. Because it has absolutely nothing to do with that in the beginning of this. I'm talking about, this is stuff like holding hands. This is stuff like flowers, or if they like flowers, or our cards. This is stuff like a phone call in the middle of the day. I did not realize how powerful. Because you know what? I'm going to be honest. When I come here, when I go to work, anywhere I'm at work, the furthest thing from my mind is my wife. Guys, how many of you sit there at work going, talk, only talk. Listen, guys are, yeah, I'm talking about after the first 24 months of y'all's relationship. Because if every guy stayed the way they were in dating, we'd starve to death. You know what I'm saying? Men have to be focused. God made men to be task-oriented. We're focused. We work. We do our job. It keeps us from getting killed. You know what I'm saying? Those kinds of things. Because there are men who do jobs and women do too, but dangerous jobs and things that, you're operating a piece of machinery and you're thinking, oh, my wife, whack that thing and you take your head off. Get life insurance. But the thing is affection symbolizes to a woman security. You might want to write that down. Affection symbolizes to a woman security, comfort, and approval. Security, comfort, and approval. I have made it my policy that if I'm driving and I'm not working, I'll pick up the phone and I'll just say, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? If I'm going to be, I just want to make sure that I make a call. Because it says to her, I'll protect you, I'm concerned for your needs, and I approve of you, and I'm proud of you. Look what Ephesians 5:28 says. And this is biblical, guys. The love a man gives his wife is the extending of his love for himself to enfold her. Wow. What did God say? He said, the man and the woman shall become one flesh. Listen, guys. That is what has to happen in the relationship. If you remain two flesh, you're not going to make it. It is your responsibility as a husband to open your heart up in affection and to love her at a level that enfolds her and makes her one flesh. Husbands, give your wife, this is Colossians 3:19. Husbands, give your wife much love and never treat them what? Harshly. Circle much. The Amplified says, be affectionate, sympathetic with them. You know, as long as Jesus Christ is first place in my life, I don't think it's possible to give my wife too much honor. I just don't think there's a way. The more you appreciate her, the more you love her, the more you show her affection, the more valuable she becomes. And the more, I want to tell you something, you ladies can attest to this, the more secure as a person you become. You know what I'm saying? They become, you know, I really believe that a woman will become so much more secure. You know, it says don't deal with him harshly. Have you ever seen a guy giving his wife affection? Isn't that, it's a beautiful thing. You know, he gives her affection, or have you ever seen somebody who doesn't give affection and just always tearing them down? Always tearing a wife down, putting them down, insulting them, embarrassing them. You know, you need to understand, here's the deal with guys, and I think this is something that guys need to understand, is that affection and sex are two different things. Two different things. Let me give you a hypothetical couple. This is out of the book. Brenda and Bruce. Bruce is just not an affectionate guy, he says. And so then he gets this look in his eye, you know that look. And he's all becoming affectionate. She's like kind of trying to throw him off a little bit. And see, Bruce, and she says, I just want to hold hands. I just want us to show affection towards each other. And he says, I'm not the affectionate type. Do you know, that's like a used car salesman saying, hey, buy this car, turkey. I'm just not a friendly salesman. Good luck. You see, and then one of the things that becomes really confusing for the woman is, and there was a book that came out that Love is Made in the Kitchen, and it was talking about how the difference between men and women, and one of the comments is if you want to cook with the oven, and at night you better keep the pilot light running all day long. And see, the thing about it is women and men, let me slide back. Let's talk about affection and sex. Here it is. Affection is the atmosphere. Sex is the event. You can't have the event all the time. You just can't. But you know what you can have all the time? Affection. You can show affection 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most marriages have a relationship problem, and I believe it starts right here. The husband is not getting sex. The wife is not getting affection. And so what happens is you have a locking of horns, and you have a constant battle. Somebody in this relationship is going to have to become the adult and say, I am going to be either, and I hope it's the man, I hope he'll take leadership and say, I am going to be more affectionate. I can promise you guys this. This is a need that I've been in marriage counseling for, not personally, but I've done marriage counseling and have been in marriage counseling. But I can tell you this, that every couple I've ever counseled with, every single couple, this has been a big issue with them, is affection. Because guys, I'm going to just be honest. We're hunters. We're task-oriented. You know, we go into the dating relationship and we're sending flowers, we're calling her, giggling. I know, in the Navy, when I was in the Navy, I was in San Diego, I was popping a $300 a month phone bill. I had no money for anything else. I was paying car payment and phone bill and rent. Well, rent, then phone bill. My buddies were like, none of them would ever get on their phone. You want to share your phone? No, we're not sharing your phone with you. Your bills are way too high. That means we have to split it with you, Macho Man. No. Then you get married, and what's the first thing? Y'all are sitting there in the same house and you won't even talk. It's just grunts. Huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Huh? No. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Good night. This is the same guy that laid awake till 1 and 2 in the morning, talking on the phone. What Charity said is exactly what will go. You cannot take responsibility for the first 24 months of your relationship. Because you're on crack. You're all like in love, and then love adrenaline's taking over, and you're just like in love. And then all of a sudden, about 24 months of the relationship, you just quit doing what it took to get you to the altar. Deposits, remember those? The things that you're still supposed to be putting in there? At 24 months, it seems like we got to go and quit the job. You know, we just, it was really a good job. I liked it. I spent my whole life building up this career. And then after 24 months, I just quit. I'm going to go live with mom and dad. Become a adult. You know what a adult is, right? Kid adult. You know, we got these 40-year-old men that live with their mommies. You know, I'm just saying, it's an adult lifestyle. We start doing that in our marriages. We start trying to live off of what we deposited back in the beginning. And it doesn't work. Affection is the atmosphere, sex is the event. You've got to keep pouring in on the affection. So how can I show affection? You're saying there, give me a moment. Give me words. If I were you guys, I read this book every once in a while just to keep current. But I'm going to tell you something. The Song of Solomon will rock your world. Solomon, in this text, he is caressing that woman with his words. Man, listen to this. How beautiful you are, my love. Now, some of you guys have forgotten how to talk like this, so you need to go back. Grab some scripture. Read into chapter 4. He goes, your eyes shine like with love behind your veil. Your hair dances like a flock of goats bounding for the hills of Gilead. You might do something like, the beaches of Port St. Lucie. I don't care. But just get in there and grab some of this. Your teeth are white and not one of them's missing. Hey, they didn't have cosmetic industry then. They're all perfectly matched. Your lips are like scarlet ribbon. Oh, how lovely they are when you speak. Your cheeks glow behind your veil. Your neck is like a tower of David, brown and smooth with a necklace around it. Man, this he's waxing eloquent. He's loving her with his words. He is caressing her. He is verbally showing his affection. Number 2, you can show it by your actions. By your actions. Acts of kindness. One of the things that my wife has said to me, I will live in a cardboard box with you if you just show me kindness. Dude, that is like, do you know how powerful that expression of commitment is? If you will just show me kindness. I don't care where we live. I don't care what you do. Just love me. Acts of kindness. You need to plan some things, and you guys need to make a list, and you need to do these things. And listen, ladies. Would you please do me one favor? And I'm asking this on behalf of guys. They may not need this, but I needed it. We're stupid. We don't know. If your husband comes to you and goes, what kind of acts of kindness could I show toward you that makes you feel loved? Don't go, well, you should know that. Okay, let's go out to the car, huh? What is a distributor? You should know that. You know what I'm saying? My wife does, she doesn't even pump gas in her car. She just knows somehow that it magically works. That's me with affection. I didn't know doing the dishes was an act of kindness and warmed her heart. Call me stupid. And she goes, if you will do the dishes for me. Well, I'm at it. Dishpan hands, they call me at the house. Fine. Let's do dishes. That is an act of kindness. Leave her a note, that she can find in the middle of her day. Call her up and tell her you love her. Greeting cards work. Women love to get cards. Flowers are an all-time favorite. My wife loves flowers. Some women don't love flowers. They think they're going to die, and they're just going to die, and they're going to go away. But you know what? Here's something you can say to them as a husband. Go, listen, I want to buy you something that's not going to last, so that I can continue to do it over and over and over. I just gave you some good stuff. I got 3 single guys right here. They're going, yes, candy is not always a good gift anymore. It's not. Some girls like it, some girls don't. But you can try some of those. Not just by my actions, but by the way I touch her. Holding hands. Getting the door. The door should your wife should never, she's like, how does that work? Oh. Get her car door. Ladies, train them. My wife will sit in the car all day long. I park my wife's car every Sunday morning. That's some way. Because Sunday mornings, we're single. She knows it. She's a widow. Because I'm working. I'm here. I've got to be focused. I've got to do things like that. But there's one thing I can do. Usually, about the time everything's coming down, she comes in about 9. I can walk out there and I grab her car and I park it for her. That's one thing I can show her. Reminder, she's still married. You know what I'm saying? But the way you touch her, holding hands. I love to see a young couple holding hands and stuff like that. But I love to see somebody who's been married 25 years or whatever, still holding hands. Still hugging each other. Still got like an arm around the waist, walking, just showing love. Studies have shown that women cannot get enough hugs. I look back and I remember Charity's holding her stuffed animal there's Charity holding her cat. There's Charity holding a little dog. There's Charity holding her family. Women are huggers. They're always hugging. They hold it up. And it's just they love to hug. They love to hold and be embraced. They love that. And so, you know what? I believe that it's important that you hug. By focused attention, number 4. Focused attention. Look at her in the eyes when she's talking. Nothing is more attractive. Now, I'm giving some good stuff here. Girls, Bob Seger said it. This has got to be good. Look her in the eyes. I'm going to tell you something. There is nothing more. I can melt Charity when I get, we're sitting at a restaurant, and I'll just sit there and I'll go, and I'll just look her in the eyes. And she's like, focused attention, all right? Oh, yeah, you're just yelling. You want to make me look like an idiot? No. I know. She's like, look her in the eyes, man. Focused attention. Here, listen to what it says in Ephesians 5:29. For no man ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and carefully protects and cherishes it, as Christ does the church. Cherishes. Man, that word is important in that text. Wife's greatest need is to feel cherished. Cherished means that the feeling that she is more, here it is, guys, that she is more important to you than anyone else anything else. I blew this one time. I'm going to tell the story. Charity and I were newly married. We went to church together. We were brand new married. My ex-girlfriend went to the same church. We should have went to another church. Is what we should have done. My wife wanted me to Charity wanted me to put my arm around her. And I'm like, I don't want to offend people. Speaking of my ex-girlfriend, I don't want to upset her. And Charity's like, and I learned right there, and I made a huge mistake. So the next time I saw my ex-girlfriend, years later though, I was holding my wife like this around her waist as we talked. Because I wanted Charity to feel more important than anyone else in that room. Because I failed. Don't do what I did and make a mistake. She needs to feel cherished, and that means that she is more important to me than anyone else or anything else. Next to Jesus Christ. I mean, I know my wife, she knows the priority system. She knows my relationship to her. Jesus, Charity. And if it's like that, then Charity's happy. I guarantee you she's going to be happy. As long as Jesus is up here, she's going to be thrilled. Number two, not only does my wife need affection, but my wife needs conversation. Look what the Phillips translation says here in Philippians 2:2. Live together in harmony and love, as though you had only one mind and one spirit between you. Now, you know, that's what they're talking about a church. Okay, the church is made up of people. And these people are, some of them are what? Huh? Who said married? Married? You got a bumper sticker. I was going to give away a bumper sticker. Married! See, this text can be applied. Now, what I say in Christianity, if Christianity doesn't work at home, it doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. Koinonia, fellowship, oneness, live in harmony and love, be of one mind, one spirit. There is only one way possible to do that, and that is communication. You've got to communicate. Studies have shown that little girls are wired and little boys are wired differently. This is how they did it. They put microphones on little girls, and they put microphones on little boys, and they just turned them loose. And they said that every single word that those little girls said, every single noise, had to do with conversation. They were talking to the stuffed animal. They were talking to each other. They were talking to the toys. They were talking. It was a conversation. Only 60% of the noises that the little boys made had anything to do with conversation. The other 40% was brooms and that kind of sound. Little boys and little girls showed the importance. Little girls have a ton better ability by the time they reach marriage age of being conversationalists than boys do. We're like 40% behind before we ever get started. Here's the definition of conversation. You might want to write this down. Verbal attention. This is showing attention verbally. This is showing how much you value your wife verbally. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Having conversation with my wife is not going to happen in the garage. It's not going to happen in my little building. It's not going to happen, when there's a movie on. My wife and I, we have to make sure that once a week, and try to every day, have a little bit of time, but at least once a week we take off time to go and be alone with each other and to stare at each other across the table at a restaurant or something and talk. We've got to have, Charity said this about a couple that really we're praying for right now that they're struggling, and we're just lifting them up. We know they're struggling. They talk to us. And she said, if you'll look at their relationship, they never date. 'Cause 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 they never date They never date. Now, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to date. You can date by taking a... I'll tell you one of the things that it's getting a little hot now, but one of my favorite things, remember this spring when we went to that marriage retreat, Lisa and Joel? Remember when we went out there with that little blanket? That rocked. That was so much fun. Grab a little blanket, some apples and some oranges and some water, no soft drinks. You know that? Or you can go like in Charity, a bag of Funyuns and Dr. Pepper. Go out, grab a blanket, and just lay on that blanket together and talk. But conversation is so important. It's verbal attention. It's showing how much you love her by showing her verbal attention. And look what Proverbs 13:17 says. Reliable communication prevents what? Progress. Progress. If you want to have progress in your marriage, you better learn how to communicate. You better learn how to sit around and to just converse and just talk and just sit down and here's the problem, like I said before. We as men, in our default, if we're not careful, we will do this. You know what we'll do? We'll farm out this need and other needs to other people in her life. Why don't you go out with your friends? Here, here's 20. Okay, 40. You go shopping, go with your friends, go hang out with them, and converse. I'm not saying that a woman doesn't need some time to hang out with her friends. But I'm going to tell you something. The number one conversation person that must be in her life better be you. Now I want you to do this. I want you to take, and I want you to draw on the back of your thing, draw 2 circles. You don't have to make it too big, but draw 2 circles. You got one. Hopefully, I think we ran out. But draw 2 circles. Just imagine in your mind, if you don't have a pen or you don't have a paper or whatever. 2 circles. Me and him. Or me and her. Just put it in the middle of it. Me and her. Here's 2 different circles. So what are we going to talk about? Well, if you're 2 different circles, you're going to talk about her, and then you're going to talk about you, and both of you are going to be like, okay, whatever. Here's the thing, and Charity's going to teach a lesson next week called recreational companionship. If you women are wise, here's what you'll do. Through recreational companionship, you will take those circles and you will overlap them. The space right there where those circles overlap, that's called shared interest. I don't want to talk about Oprah. Just don't. Never wanted to talk about Oprah, never will want to talk about Oprah. But if you want to talk about anything and have a conversation, try to shoot for a subject that lands in the middle of that little area right there. Shared interest. That's why Charity and I play together. That's why Charity and I work together. That's why Charity and I spend a lot of time together with other things. Children, different things. We try to make it more about her and I, and not as much about us and the kids. One of the biggest things is some marriages get 25 years. What usually happens when a marriage gets 25 years in most families?
Kids are gone.
High school graduation! My final son, or my daughter, is graduating high school. See you kids, bye! Now you're looking at dope head over here going, what are we going to talk about? Nothing. Because we have no shared life. You see what I'm saying? Shared interest is a place that where you guys can get together and talk about things that interest both of them. She's actually going to talk about recreational companionship. She's going to talk about maybe what Charity and I did was we can give you and download it. And there's this inventory where you can go right down through it and say, this is what I like to do, this is what I like to do. Comes to ballroom dancing, she liked it. Came to ballroom dancing, not on my top 10 list. Came to the beach, she liked it. Came to the beach, I liked it. Where are we going? Because we both Exactly. You get the point. I'm going to move quick. They're giving me signs back there. This is definitely, marriages take more than love. This is a woman sharing from her heart in this book, and I want to just read this to you. Here's a woman really sharing her actual feelings. Every once in a while I become a bit broody over the fact that my role as an exotic enchantress has become something of a bit part. Not that I expect my husband's nostrils to flare whenever the hem of my skirt brushes his knee. I don't even expect him to quiver with erotic delight when I scratch the place on his back that he never can reach. But I have the uncomfortable feeling every morning that if I greet him at the door, stark breaking naked, he'd tell me, "Hey, you got lipstick on your teeth." What I object to the most, unless it counts the sparkling, one-sided conversations I carry on with the dog, or the cryptic remarks I address the washing machine, or the occasional chat I have with dial-a-prayer. I spend 10 hours a day, every day, virtually incommunicado. By evening, I'm soberly eager to be recognized as the gay, witty nymph that I really am, and perhaps engage in a spot of repartee. "How was your day?" I began last night, addressing my openly gambit to the back of the sports page. Did you have a good lunch? I'm having the roof reshingled with gold-plated clamshells. The TV repairman is madly in love with me for running off next Wednesday morning after Weight Watchers. And then she just reaches over, grabs the newspaper, says, "Talk to me." "I am talking to you." And she says, "You haven't been talking to me, you've just been, You haven't heard a word I said," she complained. "I've heard everything he said, or she said, you said," he argued. "By the way, you got lipstick on your teeth." You see, that kind of is more what I think our wives are used to when it comes to communication from us, rather than listening to them and answering them and responding to them. Like I say, take those circles. I hope you'll learn from them. Create opportunities for shared interest. One of the things that I noticed that Charity and I talk a lot about is our joint ministry. We talk a lot about, recreational companionship that we have. And we also talk, one of the great things for us is when we go to things, we'll talk. Because the kids will play. Now it's just us. And it gives us opportunity to talk. Matter of fact, I think that's a huge, huge option. Number 3, my wife needs openness and honesty. When I say openness, I mean your wife has a deep craving to know the details of your life. She wants to know the innermost thoughts, your feelings, the details. In fact, she has the right to know everything in your life because she's married to you. Ladies, I can't say this with enough authority. If I were you, there is no way in God's green earth that I would ever put up with a man who said, "This is my business." And it's private. That's when you stick your finger in his face and say, "Listen, I don't know if you remember what happened, but back in this day, we stood at an altar and you said a vow. You no longer have your rights. Neither do I. You no longer have your own rights. Neither do I. Now, you may not hold me to mine, but I will hold you to your vow. Because that is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life." There is absolutely no room. I've had counseling sessions where I sit down and the guy says, "Should the guy have his own place and his own responsibility, his own privacy and da-da-da-da?" And I said, "Absolutely not." He looked at me like I just shot him. Absolutely not. It's got to be open and honest. There is she cannot trust you if she doesn't know you. You say, I just want intimacy with my wife. I want her to open her heart up to me. I want to experience the love of our relationship. Come clean. That's all I can tell you, because if you're not experiencing that, there's trust issues. There's just trust issues. Because women are emotional, and you think you know how, you think, these guys right here, I mean, they think, I know ladies, I'm sorry. You know what? You're going into an artillery fire with a cap gun when it comes to emotions. They've been playing the emotional game before you even knew girls were girls. My little kindergarten just graduated yesterday. Kindergarten. She looks at me and she's got the emotional game down better than me, and I've been married for 23 years. I'm 46 years old, and I look at her and go, I'm worthy. You are an emotional master. She is like little Yoda. But this is one area I do understand, and that is insincerity. Women can see through it. You won't know they do. You won't know it because they won't go, you're lying to me. No, they'll just trust gone. It weathers away. It just weathers away. A lot of times they'll just keep the status quo, but inside they're done. Proverbs 26, 23, and 28 says this: insincere talk hides what you're really thinking. It brings nothing but ruin. It is so important to be man enough to share your real emotions. It's so important to be man enough to lay it out there. Share your fears. Share your feelings. Share your disappointments. You cannot be the biggest fear, the biggest failure you're going to have in your marriage is to be afraid to show your feelings. Number 4, I'm moving. My wife needs financial security and support. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, if one doesn't provide for his relatives, especially his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Here's what all I want to say about this, and you can do with whatever you want to. And Harley even talks about this in his book. I have a conviction of this, and I believe with everything that's in me, that if your wife does not want to work, if in that situation ever again, I would do it over and over and over again. My wife looked at me when she goes, I'm sick. I'm not really feeling well. She's all sick. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's up? So she goes and gets one of those little things, the EPT thing. We're having a baby. 5 years into our marriage. Little Mike is coming. She goes, I'm staying at home and working at home. I'm going to be a mom. And I'm like, oh, what? But one of the things that I'm so thankful for is when if your wife wants to work, does not want to work, I should say, outside the home, and it's your job as a provider and a protector of your home to figure out a way to make that happen. Harley says it in his book. He says there's nothing a woman resents more than being a provider in a home. He said it undermines a relationship, and he said this just based on counseling. He said if your wife wants to work outside the home, then that's her choice. But he even talks about, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but what to do with the money and how to break that down if she does choose to work outside the home. But I'm going to tell you, man, wives do not want what they do not want. And you better make sure that you do what it takes to do that. Let's move on to number 5. My wife needs me to be committed to the family. Here's how I can be committed to the family. Number 1, being faithful to my wife. That's number 1. Look what he says. He who commits adultery, this is Proverbs. He who commits adultery is an utter fool, and he destroys his own soul. You know, one of the things I think that you ought to do at this point, and that is take your wife aside and say, listen, I know there's pressures outside of, you know, our relationship and all the things that go on, but I am committed to our marriage. Help me be committed to our marriage. Number 2, share the parenting responsibilities. Ephesians 4:6 says, fathers, don't overcorrect your children or make it difficult for them to obey. Bring them up into Christian teaching and Christian disciplines. How should you share the parenting responsibility? First of all, be consistent. Inconsistent fathers are worse than no father at all. Whatever you're doing, be consistent with it. Number 2, discipline, don't punish. I believe that there's a big difference between punishment. Punishment is payment for past sins. Discipline is training. Here we go.
In all of your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. 'Cause this is the adventure you were born for, walking with God, and God walking with you. The adventure you were born for, walking with God, and God walking with you. So in all of your ways, acknowledge Him,